your assets from a swap with a third-party provider, the steps might be different than if your swap wasn't going through with a decentralized exchange like 1inch or Paraswap that you might find in Ledger Live as well. So yeah, there are a bunch of potential symptom causes from that. So yeah, we can double check that if you go into more detail. But those are the first things that come to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And Felix, I just realized that I did not hit the live button on YouTube, so we were not actually live completely. So we might have to go through some of the questions again. I apologize for this.
No worries.
So I guess let's go back to. Well, we'll just what do you think? Let's go back to eNows and just like tackle those real quick. Apologies for that, guys. Like totally my fault. I forgot to hit the button.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go through them, and we can go through the VOD as well if we need to.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So should we just start from the start? So eNows.
Yeah, again. No.
Yeah, you've mentioned when can you sell your crypto, or where you can sell your crypto from your Ledger device. The things that I've been mentioning for that in particular would be if you're selling normally you'd send to an exchange to sell, especially with an asset like XRP, normally some kind of third-party provider. So normally an exchange I normally use personally, Coinbase, Binance are the big exchanges out there. You might be able to sell your assets into fiat. So that's what I would generally recommend, depending on what's best for you.
Okay, great. Then Scotland, my vision, asking why he had to reinstall the apps after the firmware update. That's perfectly normal. Everybody updating the firmware have to reinstall their apps. That's what happened to me as well when I update my firmware on my device. Perfectly normal. Now, the synchronization you're getting when you go into the accounts tab is slightly different. It's a slightly different issue. So there is the firmware and apps thing that's perfectly normal. Ledger Live should help you reinstall all your apps after the firmware update. Now, the synchronization issue that you see in your accounts, like the thing that's the little spinning arrows, that's a different separate issue. Here you need to update Ledger Live to the latest version. So make sure you're on version 2.53.2 and those issues should go away.
Right, so quickly going through, we've also got a question about algo rewards. I did share a link previously. I might just reshare that, but essentially being that the Algorand Foundation has phased out participation and staking rewards, and as a result, if you did want to become part of the new governance program, you can go onto their website, but I'll pop that in there for everyone as well, not just you, Ricardo, for that one.
Yep, and then we have Jyoti Sharma. Unfortunately, got his account was drained. Jyoti, we've got your case ID. We'll take care of you. Sorry to hear that happened. You guys in the audience, just as a warning, anyone that gets a hold of your 24-word recovery phrase will be able to drain your accounts. There is tons of fake accounts on the internet, on social media, especially on Twitter, Discord, people that will try to impersonate Ledger support, Ledger employees as well, and try to steal your funds, right? And try to trick you into sharing your 24-word recovery phrase. Again, if you share your 24-word recovery phrase, what you're sharing is your private keys. Anyone with the private keys will be able to steal your funds. So it's very, very important that you keep those private keys, this recovery phrase, safe and secure and secret. Never share it with anyone. Ledger will never ask you for it. That being said, Jyoti, we will. I've got your case number ID. I'll get back to you after this email. To help you out.
All right, and I'll quickly run through BLEI80's message. If you can provide more details, I didn't see any additional messages, so just hit us up with more info if you can. We'll try to help you with that one. CEOK also mentioned potentially one of their swaps not working. And if that's the case, normally we'd be asking, I think you mentioned it before, what provider you're using and the pair that you're trying to swap between. That would give us a better idea depending on what that might be. Generally, if the third-party provider isn't hasn't sent the funds yet, it might be good to contact the provider. If it's a decentralized exchange, we can try to grab some more details about that and see how we go from there. But that's normally my first things that comes to mind for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mike is sorry, reading the wrong line here. Philip is asking, so DOT staking rewards not available since the end of January, have over 280 DOT bound. Try to unbound, get error case. Okay, get an error case something did not resolve. Okay, we'll take a look at the case. Now, a few things you can do. Make sure everything is up to date, because if you're getting an error, when unbonding and the error is transaction version, for example, that means the dot app is not up to date. In this case, you need to update everything starting from the top. So start from updating Ledger Live, then the firmware. By the way, we've got a new firmware version, so please do update to that as well. And then update the dot app to the latest version. If you have an old version of the app, you won't be able to create transactions on the Polkadot network. When it comes to staking rewards itself, DOT staking is quite difficult, I would say. There is no guarantee that you get staking rewards if you are nominating the wrong validators. It takes quite a bit of due diligence to find good validators. We can help. I'll get your ticket number. I'll get back to you after the live. But typically, in my case, I nominate with 300 dots, and I get consistent rewards. But also, it took me a lot of time to find good validators. So that's another reason why you might not get rewards.
All right. So Miri has mentioned, when is the new Ledger Stax going to start shipping? So at the moment, the last time I checked, it was set for May at the latest. So that's when we would expect those to start shipping out to you guys. Not sure if you guys have bought that already, Millie, or if you've hoping to get that soon or anything like that. My understanding is that the normal pre-order devices have sold out. So if you do want to get it, you can always go on to the secondary market for the redemption NFT, and you can redeem that way as well, just as a heads up.
Cool. Then we've got Kermezi. Please, Dix TRC. Okay, so TRC20 US Tether sent out of energy problem error for mobile. I do think this issue is fixed, but you will need to. It's fixed, right?
Yeah, that's the latest version. I think came out quite recently. So yeah, it's just a matter of updating Ledger Live in particular. Yeah,
do updates, Kermezi. Just make sure, like sometimes, like I know on iOS that's the case. I don't always get the latest update automatically, so I have to go into the App Store and just manually press the update button to make the app updates. So you might want to try that. Make sure you also have enough TRX in your account, because Ledger Live, if you don't have enough energy in your account, then Ledger Live will automatically convert your TRX into energy to pay for the transaction fee. I would recommend that you keep at least 30 to 50 TRX in your account, especially if you want to send USDT Tether to a new Tron account, because that consumes more energy than if you send to an already existing account.
Right, so next question, we've got Jezreel Ramos, and they mentioned the Akala app has many errors. I literally cannot perform any operation from the app. I get the following error: transaction has a bad signature. You mentioned you have some dots stuck there in particular. I think especially with the dot transactions or rather that whole ecosystem, it's very important to make sure the application is up to date. That's probably the thing that fixes the most problems for me when I interact with customers, but it wouldn't be something that I have a exact fix for off the top of my head. I'm not sure if you have any ideas for maybe the root cause for that one in particular at all.
I think I agree with you. It's probably an app version that's out of date, either on your side, Jezreel, like your system is not up to date, in which case you have to really update everything, like Ledger Live, firmware, apps. It could also be that our app, the one we serve to you guys, is out of date. Maybe we can check that out quickly after the live as well. Just make sure that there's no issue there.
Just actually having a look through that now. One of my colleagues, shout out to Ben, potentially mentions if you have an expert mode on the Akala app, and if there's an account type that you need to change in particular. Not sure if it's going to be exactly to you. This is just me quickly scanning through, but that might be part of the process to getting that solved. What I might suggest as well, always try to get a hold of us, support.ledger.com. Bottom right-hand side, there's a blue or purple contact us button. I'm actually colorblind, so I actually don't know. But
it's purple.
It'll be down on the bottom right, and you can get a hold of us, and we'll try to troubleshoot that with you, like really more directly, so we can have a chat with you for that one.
Next, we've got Nightcore Toxic VR. When Matic staking. So if you mean in Ledger Live, then it will. So it will not. So native staking in Ledger Live will take time to be shipped. I don't think there is a firm roadmap for it. However, there will be some probably some apps in the Discover section in Ledger Live that will let you stake Matic at some point. Now, that being said, you can already stake Matic with your Ledger device in third-party app, so you'll have to use Metamask. Just so you know, if you want to stake Matic, the Matic needs to be in your Ethereum account, not in your Polygon account. The reason why is because the smart contracts that regulate staking for Polygon are actually on the Ethereum network for security. So the Matic needs to be in your Ethereum account. We have a tutorial on the Help Center. So support.ledger.com, you can check that out. Just type stake Matic, and there is also a video on this very YouTube channel that will teach you how to stake Matic with Ledger Live. With your Ledger device and MetaMask.
Right, so I'm going to go through next two a little bit quickly. Shorties96 mentions would love it when IOTA is finally getting this app within Ledger Live, and you don't need to use Firefly anymore. I think the thing there would be just that there are things that potentially, as you know, would need to use third-party wallets for. If or when those things are going to be within Ledger Live, we never will be able to say, unfortunately. If we do get a lot of those questions, it's just the kind of thing that will be, we'll make sure to pass on the feedback and let them know that the features are dearly wanted. The next would be Trent Monday. Can I have the same wallet address on two different ledgers at the same time and use either ledger at any time to access that address? Indeed, you can have the same wallet address on two different ledgers if they have the same recovery phrase, and therefore they derive the same public-private key pair for those addresses. And you can use those either of those ledgers at any times, exactly like you said. I do so myself. I'm assuming you do as well, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So totally possible.
Cool. Next, we've got Joshi asking, where are our crypto coin stores? So if you mean like Ledger physical stores, we don't have one. We have reseller stores, and we have partners that will sell Ledger devices, it's perfectly safe to buy your Ledger device at Best Buy, for example, or on Amazon, or at any official reseller. There is actually a list of all resellers on the website. If you type Ledger reseller official on Google, you will find it. And again, it's perfectly safe to get your Ledger device from them because they get the Ledger device from us directly from the factory in France. As far as I
think he means where the crypto in particular is. That's kind of the way I read it.
Oh.
So I was actually just going to pop in, the Ledger Academy article.
Okay, yeah.
But no, go into that one as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. The crypto coins are stored. They are stored on the blockchain. So your coins are stored in accounts that are on the blockchain, right? So the blockchain, you can think of blockchains are public databases, and accounts can be accessed with private keys. And so what's in your device are private keys. And so every single time you sign a transaction with your device, what happens behind the scene is you authorize using a private key to spend from an account that is on the blockchain. So that's where the coins are stored. Apologies, I completely misread this question.
No, it happens. All right, so next would be Brooklyn State of Mind. Hey guys, you've been trying to add the Sol, I'm assuming you mean the Sol account. I've been trying to add the Sol account to a new computer. Ledger Live wouldn't let you because internet is down. But of course, you've mentioned the internet is working fine. I know that this was related to a similar issue, but I am not sure. If I do remember seeing it, so I would imagine this has definitely been raised. I'm actually checking the internal ticketing system now. But of course, if you do want to, normally I offer the customers that I speak to a better way to for us to let you know when that potential outage is resolved. So I definitely have you get a hold of us. That way, either if it's a separate issue, we can troubleshoot. If it's not, we can just let you know, hey, this is going to be resolved, either at a particular time or with a particular update or that kind of thing as well. So support.ledger.com, Brooklyn, if you do want to get more of to get in contact with us, and we can liaise with you about that. If you mention my name, I can even grab the case personally as well.
Perfect. And then we've got Linwood Jones. Can I buy XRP using my Nano X? Yes, you can, absolutely. There's different options. Just connect your Ledger Live to your Ledger device to Ledger Live. Tap the buy button, and then you'll have a list of different providers that will let you buy XRP directly into your XRP account. Just go shopping, compare different rates, because there might be a big discrepancies between providers. Sometimes significant discrepancies. So just take time to look at every single provider and pick the rate that's best for you. You might also want to check out the Discover tab. For example, there is an option to buy with Binance. This one is really good for some crypto coins. So yeah, just go shopping across those different apps and just select the rate that works best for you.
All right. Next question here is, just a statement. Sergio mentions, hey guys, hello Sergio.
Hey.
Yeah, pop your questions in the chat if you want to. But if you just hang out, hello. Next one was Final Kens. If I restore my private keys on a Ledger Stax and I still have my Ledger Nano X, we'll both be able to access the crypto on the Ledger Live. I think you mentioned that to ignore your question, but I do want to answer it anyway. You can definitely restore the recovery phrase. I also would use the words mnemonic phrase or seed phrase. They're all the same, refer to the same thing, onto your Ledger Stax and to the Ledger Nano X, and they can access the same accounts. If you have different recovery phrase, it'll be different accounts as well. So all good. I know you asked to ignore, but yeah.
And by the way, we'll have a video on this very topic. When we release the Stax, there'll be a video on YouTube that shows you how to restore, or actually have a Stax with me here, how to restore your accounts in a new stack with your recovery phrase. Very easy.
Yeah, the process is, when I was testing it, so much easier. So I'm really stoked to have that come out. So yeah, really excited. All right, so next was Jezreel mentioning that your application was updated to the latest version and it still doesn't work. Yes, definitely get a hold of us. It's something we can have a look at. I'll try to get in more detail with you if you want personally, and we can go through that in particular. It might be some things that we want to grab, like your address, for example, which you wouldn't want to necessarily put over a live chat. So yeah, get a hold of us. We'll try to go through that with you.
Okay, and next we've got Chris saying that it would be nice to have Ethereum support on Ledger Live soon. Yep, we'll escalate that, and we'll see if we can have a roadmap for it. I can take the next one as well. The Bluetooth. So Sergio is asking, is unable to pair Ledger Nano X with the Bluetooth iOS 16.3. Any ideas to fix? I've had this issue many times on iOS. I've got an iPhone as well myself. Typically what I do is I reset the pairings on the device. So on the Ledger device, I would go into the settings, I think security, and then reset the pairings. And then I would go into my phone and I would go into the settings, the Bluetooth, the Bluetooth settings here. And then you tap the little eye icon. So for example, I'll show you. And you tap forget this device. And then you forget the device and then you try to repair again. And usually that helps a lot. If it still doesn't work, then get a hold of us, support.ledger.com.
All right, so Milimiri, they mentioned, why is the Ledger Stax screen black and white and not in color? So yeah, I can't necessarily say I can speak for, the hardware designers or anything, but especially from my point of view, the Ledger, the screens are way more expensive, and so we wouldn't want to have to have this device be way more expensive than it might already be for some of you. I think the other thing is that I don't personally think it's necessary to have color. You've got your phone and your laptop to actually do the interactions or to look at the NFTs you might have and things like that, and it's actually a lot better, the black and white, than I thought it was going to be. I'd never had any experience with so e-ink screens, so the Amazon Kindle and that kind of stuff. So I didn't really have any expectations coming in, but the fidelity of it is really good, and I don't personally see the need for it. And to keep things as simple as possible means that we can also be as secure as possible to minimize, the risk, the attack surfaces that might be there. So keeping it simple is always best, in my opinion, as well.
I totally agree with you, Felix. I think because you have to use your stacks with your phone anyway, with Ledger Live on your phone, so you might as well look at your NFT on your phone. There's a gallery option. Okay, so next was Philip. Since the firmware update, I had to update Atom 88 and 1inch several times. I think that's normal, Philip. It's just a matter of, Ledger Live just asking your device to reinstall the apps. That's part of the normal flow. So don't worry too much about it. Just make sure to keep your device connected to Ledger Live when that happens. There'll be a progress bar on the device. Make sure that goes all the way through, and all the apps are installed back on the device before you disconnect it to Ledger Live, and you should be okay.
I think it actually happened when the device went into pin mode for me, and I disconnected the device, and I was still able to get it back running. Obviously, it's not the best experience for all times, but it is something that I think the devs have considered. So even then, it's actually not too bad. But Final Kens was mentioning to ignore the question, but we already went through that. So hopefully that wasn't too harsh on you. Joe Thomas, is Cardano support soon? Again, nothing from us, unfortunately, about timeframes. We can only say that we pass on the feedback, and especially the more feedback we get, the more we can, the more it emphasizes you guys. So again, really no time frame from us. But Yatati Joshi mentions, thank you for replying. No issues, guys. So it's really awesome. Thank you.
Then we've got Joey 420. Why is blind signing required to sign most transactions involving smart contracts? That's a good question. Blind signing is only required to sign transactions that live outside of, when you interact with an app that's not in Ledger Live, then most of the time you will have to enable blind signing. But if you use an app that's inside Ledger Live, then you will clear sign, which means that you'll see more stuff on the screen. And also we are developing solutions, plugins that app developers can integrate into their apps that will let you clear sign transactions even outside of Ledger Live as well. I'm pretty excited about this. It's just a button, right? A connect to Ledger button. So you might have that option instead of MetaMask, for example.
Yeah, I think especially because I do use a lot of blind signing myself in my day-to-day. It is something that I think is really important to try to clear sign everything, but also the functions in all smart contracts have so many different variables, and having them all be standardized, I think, isn't necessarily something that will happen overnight. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's part of the experience of crypto for now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Ilias mentions, can I stake USDT on my ledger? Now, this wouldn't be something you'd necessarily... I don't know if USDT has any like ERC20 Ethereum staking mechanisms or anything that I know of, but it wouldn't be necessarily that you'd be staking with us as a service provider. If you're going to stake USDT, maybe you want to give it out for lending purposes. You might use another service like Aave, Compound, or something like that. But it wouldn't necessarily be staking in the sense that I would think of staking in other mechanisms in particular. But you can use your Ledger device to use it. It would not be something that I wouldn't remember in Ledger Live in particular.
I think you made a very important distinction here. Like, people use the term staking and lending interchangeably, but with USDT you would be lending the coin to a third party probably, or like something on chain that would use that for other purposes, but not staking. Final Cans, awesome, thank you. Well, thank you, Final Cans. And then we've got Audrey Z. Ledger, what happens if for a really long time I don't update the firmware or Ledger version? Am I at risk or not? So the private keys are not at risk. So as long as you keep your 24 recovery phrase and you don't share it with anyone, then the funds are safe. What can happen, however, if you don't update the firmware is, first of all, you will not get the latest features, but also like you might lose compatibility with different networks, just because if you don't have the latest firmware, you don't have necessarily the latest version of the apps. And there are some networks that require frequent app updates to be able to create transactions. So I would say best practices is to update as many times, as frequently as you can, or at least once every 6 months if you don't really like to get your Ledger device out of cold storage. But I would say updates whenever you can. Yeah, not just the firmware. Felix, go ahead.
No, I think the only other thing I'd mention is that did happen recently with some of the specifics for people that were using Bitcoin, and us deprecating specific Bitcoin, the way that the Bitcoin application was interacting with Ledger Live. And so it doesn't mean that your Bitcoin is lost or anything like that. It meant that the way that the Bitcoin application that used to work, it was trying to do certain thing and it wasn't able to do it because we deprecated that on our end. So yes, exactly. Make sure it's always up to date. But as long as you have your recovery phrase, you'll always be okay in nearly all circumstances. So yeah. I do see Jotti's message there. You missed what we were talking about before, but that you had a case number and you'd sent a police complaint with the transaction ID details where you had some transactions that were made without your consent. And I actually went through and quickly double-checked the case in particular. You mentioned the normal process before, where we'd normally be liaising with police as best we can, and we would be trying to work with them, because we're not like a law enforcement ourselves. We're not a state entity. We're a private company. So we'd be trying to give them as much information as we can to help them try to solve the case in particular. What would happen is if the funds go to an exchange, for example, we can say to law enforcement, hey, this might be a place where these guys, the law enforcement guys, can say, hey, can you maybe freeze the account or stop the funds, where the source of the funds coming from, and go from there, and that kind of thing. But it is on the police in particular. So if it's specifically for any updates or anything like that, you have to go to the police or the law enforcement. Sometimes it's cybersecurity, depending on the jurisdiction. But yeah, we have the ticket in particular. We can always have a look and try to let you know as best we can. But normally, all updates have to come from the law enforcement side in particular.
Cool. And then Joey says that Theta or T-Fuel support on Ledger Live would be awesome indeed, I think eventually it will be integrated into Ledger Live as well. We'll escalate your feedback. That being said, you probably know that, but you can store Terra and T-Fuel with your Ledger device, but by using the Terra wallet, which is a third-party application.
All right. Scotland My Vision mentions you just updated the firmware to 2.1.0. Is that right? That would be correct for the newest Ledger Nano X firmware. The Ledger Nano S, is that 2.1.0 as well? I can't remember.
No, I think it's 1.1.0.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, from 1.0.4, I think.
Okay. All right. But Sergio, as they mentions, when AVAX, XDC, and VChain Ledger Live. Again, no time frames, unfortunately. I'm sure you're aware that, Sergio, that you can use AVAX is the web wallet we can use. XDC is my Ethereum wallet, and VeChain has Sync2, I think, is the wallets. But yeah, no time frame on Ledger Live, unfortunately.
All right. So next we've got Barry. Why does it take Ledger so long to create new token apps? Why no Flare or Songbird? Well, Barry, actually I've got good news for you because both are now supported in Ledger Live. However, there are apps for Flare and Songbird, but they're not necessary. You can just use the Ethereum app on your device because all these different blockchains, they are all sort of copies of Ethereum in one sense or another. So the Ethereum app on your device is perfectly able to manage those private keys and those transactions on those blockchains. So simplify, make your life simpler. Just use the Ethereum app, and that's all you need really. If you don't see Flare or Songbird in your Ledger Live, then you might have an old version of Ledger Live. Make sure to update everything so you can get new apps and new accounts and all of that.
All right. I think I lost my track of where I was. Oh, yep. Joey for 20. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Agreed. No, thank you. I see some other jokes there, but Audrey Z, good question. They are slow. I think one thing I wanted to mention for applications is that a lot of the time they are built by the developers themselves as opposed to us. We try to liaise with them as best we can. A lot of the times they jump onto our Discord. We try to work with them to try to develop the applications, especially for layer 1 coins. Not with regards to tokens, it's also something that can be submitted. That one can take some time because we want to make sure that the things that do appear within Ledger Live are as safe as they can be. So I do see, Audrey Z, you mentioned you wanted to buy Alien World. It's not something that I'm aware of in particular. So if I do a quick Google now, we can double check if it's like, let's say it's a BEP20 token, ERC20, something like that. I see ERC20 and more. So it's just a matter of having that be submitted as a token, and the devs can look at that from there, just to be specific for that one.
And keeping in mind, if it's an ERC20 token, you can buy some regular ETH, and then you go into Pariswap, and then you swap the ETH for Alien World token. That's also a good way to get it. We've got a good question from Akira next. Is there a lockup period for staking ETH 2.0? Well, I mean, yes and no. So currently, if you stake ETH natively, all the ETH is locked into what we call the beacon chain contract on Ethereum, and it will remain locked until the next big upgrade called Capella or Shanghai, which should be coming in March. I think that's the current deadline, but that might be pushed back because it's Ethereum. And those updates are very important. So, you don't want to mess around and release buggy code. So like the developers will take the time they need to release the upgrade. But this is coming for sure. It's the next big upgrade on Ethereum. Yeah.
I think they did a test withdrawal on one of the test nets, a smaller test net, and that went pretty well. So yeah, it's looking good. But I think you were about to mention that there are alternatives. I know where you're going.
Yes, you read my mind. I was gonna say even before that, I was going to say, like, even after the upgrade, if you are staking 32 ETH, for example, you have your own validator, and you want to unlock, like withdraw your ETH, there will still be a queue to exit. Like, it's not like you press one button and then all of a sudden, like, the ETH is back on your available balance. There will be an exit queue that might take, I don't actually know how long that could take, probably like a few days before you actually get the ETH back into your wallet. And Felix, I'll let you talk about the alternatives.
Yes. Alternatives would be liquid staking. There is maybe a middle ground actually. One of your favorites, Rocket Pool. We can sort of stake in smaller denominations as opposed to 32 ETH. But I think the biggest one that most users would be familiar with or might have heard of would be Lido, which would be called liquid staking, where you can essentially get a self-rebasing version of Ethereum, STETH, and you're not necessarily able to unstake that, but what you would do is swap that token for another for Ethereum or whatever else you wanted to swap it for. So you don't necessarily have that lockup period in particular effectively.
Cool. Then Sergio is asking if address books are in the roadmap. Actually, don't know if they are. I think they should. Felix, do you know about it?
There's definitely been talk. I did scan some of the dev tickets, but I think part of it also, and I do have some agreement with them, is that if you do have an address book, this is just talking out loud, is like, okay, then if it's stored on the instance of Ledger Live, then if the computer is compromised, we break the assumption that we can use the Ledger device with a compromised computer, right? And so if it's stored on the Ledger device, you wouldn't have space to put it on where the applications would go, because I don't think it's the right fit, and also it's not a secure place to put what is supposed to be personal data. I don't think you could also put it on the secure element either. So it is a more complicated question than just having an address in a file somewhere. So it is an interesting question. I know that they potentially are thinking about solutions, especially because with the advent of the zero value transactions and address poisoning, that it is becoming more and more something that people are looking for. But yes, I know that they were playing around with the idea and thinking about what the potential solutions would be, because we want to be secure as possible at all times, right? So it's all about thinking about what attack surfaces there are. And they brought up things that I'd never heard of or never thought of could be attack surfaces as well. So yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, trust our devs, like they know what they're doing. I think there's a good reason why, like they're very, very carefully weighing whether we want address books or not. Next question was Saladin. Are the problems with Sol and Near solved? Not yet. So if you're talking about the problem that just popped up recently when adding Solana accounts or Near accounts, they're not solved yet. We are working on them. For now, if you want to add or manage those accounts, if you're having issues, just use a third-party app like Solflare. And for Near, I think there's an app called the Near Wallet. There's documentation on the Help Center, support.ledger.com, that you can look up. It's perfectly safe. We're working on it. Just give us time to fix the issues, and yeah.
Right. So Jayton K mentions, is there a way to add Near HBAR and ICP wallets without connecting to third-party websites? So I'll start with HBAR first, actually. When you're creating an account, you do have to connect to a third-party website, I think, as based on the protocol itself. So it's not something that can be changed as far as I'm aware at this stage. With Internet Computer, it is something that you can, add the application for, but connecting to a third-party website would be part of managing that at this stage. With Near, though, it is something that you can add within Ledger Live, and that was quite recent, wasn't it?
Yeah, until very recently, you could.
Yeah. So
technically you can, but
so those are the things yeah, those are the things that you might need to do. But yes, it is. We can go through with at least ICP, Internet Computer, not Insane Kernel Posse, and mention that as something that potentially, if we want to add into Ledger Live going forward as well.
Cool. Then we've got Bill33. I'm unable to connect my device to MetaMask. When I try, it says it wants to connect to an HID device, but it won't let me confirm. So I've had this issue before. This is like Chrome specific or Brave specific kind of issue. I would say like easiest way to solve your issue, if you don't mind using Firefox, is try to connect via Firefox.
I don't think Firefox, because Firefox doesn't support WebHID.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, but that's why it's something that happened to me on Chrome in the past. Like this HID, like there is a little window that, you know, like when you connect your device, it requests that you connect to WebHID, and then it should like open like a second tab into your browser and then connect that way, but it doesn't do it systematically, so I don't exactly know what's the flow of connection that I need to make when doing it. But if you get this, that's why, like, if you get this issue like often, I would say, you know, like stop, like closing the browser and just doing it again. Usually it fixes things. You know, clear the cache in the browser as well. That might also help. But personally, what I like to do is just using Firefox. I just find that it's just much easier. Although, as you said, Felix, like it doesn't support WebHID, but I'm fine using 2FA, U2F. I just think it works better on Firefox, but it's just my opinion.
All right, so William Council mentions, I created my PIN, got my phrase, linked to my ledger, then downloaded my accounts, and I walked away. Now it's like a new device and I have to start over. Is my ledger defective? It's a bit of an interesting process. So I think the first thing I wanted to mention is, okay, when you go set up the device, you know, you do create your PIN, you get the recovery phrase, mnemonic phrase from the device, and then you confirm, and then it's all good. It should be all good from there, right? It should go processing, and then it'll go to the dashboard where you see install apps and settings on there. Now, I'm not sure what you mean by linked ledger and downloaded accounts. I'm assuming that you meant that you've added the accounts and installed the applications. So you install applications onto the ledger device, and then you add the accounts that correspond so that the Ledger Live actually looks onto your Ledger device and says, hey, I want to grab the address for this derivation path or this specific public-private key pair, and it'll do so from there. The fact that you come back to and have a new device shouldn't automatically mean that the ledger is defective. That actually does happen when potentially, let's say that the device thinks it's under attack. If there's a huge amount of amperage, for example, it might go, hey, I just need to reset myself just to make sure that nothing is lost. So I think what I would generally suggest would be to set up the device again. Remember, it's just a device. Everything on your Ledger Live should still be there. If that's the case, then you should be able to keep working. If not, get a hold of us. Otherwise, if it's Ledger Live, where the accounts are disappearing, that might be a separate issue. That might be something to get a hold of us for. So I'm not sure if you can give us any more information about that, but it definitely shouldn't automatically mean that the device is defective, as far as I would be able to tell.
Okay, doke. Next we've got Joey and Scotland like giving us shout outs in the chat. Well, thank you guys for coming. Appreciate the thoughts. Then we've got Jaden K. How often are firmware updates released and how important are they? How often? Like not that frequent. I mean, Ledger Live has a much tighter update schedule than firmware. I think the last firmware updates on the Nano X, for example, date back from I don't know. Do you remember, Felix? But it was a while ago, like a month ago. I'm not for Ledger Nano X. I don't think it was quite as soon as a month. It might have been a little bit longer. Oh yeah, easily.
It was 202. that it was, right? So, but in any case, it's not as like TikTok as the normal release cycles would be for sure.
And I would say they are pretty important. So if you can do update, then do update. It's just best practice, because by updating, you just guarantee that the device will stay compatible with Ledger Live, which is pretty important, because that's why you get the latest apps and features and functions, and you get security updates as well. So like recently on the Nano X, for example, we revamped the pin screen. So the new pin screen is more secure than the one that was before. So, you get like new features that are important for security and better UX generally by updating the firmware. So yes, do the firmware updates. They are important.
Right. So we've got Hakeem Irfan mentioning when we're going to integrate A0. We wouldn't ever be able to say any timeframes, but it'll be something that I'll pop onto the feedback list for us that we do for all of the AMAs, and just so we know it's the kind of features that you guys are looking for. And then we have a bunch of comments from Barry, Audrey Z, Akira. Thank you guys for the questions as well. Zinfin says, yo, hey, what's up? I do remember your name actually. And Millie Miri asks what the big difference is on the Ledger Stax, other than the big screen from the other Ledger Nano devices. Other than the big screen, we've got Qi wireless charging, which is a nice feature. You have the ability to stack the devices. And there is one thing, I'm going to go out on a limb because they told us not necessarily to always shout it out, but the CTO shouted it out on the release date, so I think I'm okay. Is that the
do it?
It's the NFC. It's the thing that I'm most excited to get a hold of for. It's not going to be available to use straight off when we release it, but it is something that's going to be in there to use. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be a really exciting feature for me personally. So,
indeed.
Yeah.
And also you can customize the screen, which is a feature I really like. So you can put the picture of your girlfriend or your wife or husband or boyfriend on the screen, which is great.
And it's a lot clearer than I thought it would be. I thought I'd put pictures on there and you'd kind of see like 8-bit whatever, but it's actually really good. So I actually was stoked.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got a shout out from Zinfin, William, and Loki. Love my Nano. Thank you guys. Crypto to the moon. Yeah. Soon, hopefully. Linwood Jones as well. Thank you. Thanks, Linwood. And then we've got Epifanio Valencia. Is there a resolution for a Nano X not utilizing the full memory to install apps, only being able to utilize half the storage to install app? Not utilizing the full memory to install apps, only being able to utilize half the storage to install the app. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that.
I think it's definitely the kind of thing we'd want you to get a hold of us for. But I think one of the things that I might ask is if you had updated an application just recently, or the firmware, less likely. But I think it might be the application in particular. We might be able to see if we can help you out with that one, and if you get a hold of us. But not. I'd have to go through and double check some notes for myself if there was a specific direct cause for that one in particular.
Do you have time to do 2 more questions, Felix?
Yeah, always.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I totally missed the time.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is from Ursid Nazri. Sorry if I'm butchering your name here. What other third-party wallet apps will you be supporting in the short term? It's not entirely up to us. It's more like the other way around, where external teams liaise with our developers to develop like third parties and integrations on the Ledger platform. But if you're talking about what apps they are in the Discover section. I'm not really sure if this information is public, because sometimes we can't really talk about what's coming necessarily. I think what's public in terms of features coming to Ledger Live would be Cardano staking, HBAR staking. All these applications will be coming. But I would say just once in a while, just do double check, go into the Discover tab and see what's in there. Because those apps, they get released pretty, sneakily sometimes. Like they just pop up one day and, no one has ever heard of them sometimes. So yeah, once in a while, just do have a look in the Discover app, see what's new.
All right. I think Ilan Morel mentions what would happen in case Ledger goes bankrupt. Not that I want it to, but recent events made me paranoid. First of all, Ledger Live is open source, but there is actually already a Help Center article that goes into that in particular. Generally, you can always just use your recovery phrase so worst case scenario, Ledger just disappears and all the infrastructure disappears as well. You can always use your recovery phrase. Touch wood for that one, by the way. But you can always just use your recovery phrase to import to any compatible wallet, and you'll be good to go from there. So that's the worst case. Otherwise, someone could take over the project and Ledger Live project and go from there as well. So it's not necessarily that your assets will ever be lost.
Mm-hmm. I think you also answer William Counsel's question as well, because he's asking, is there a solution to recover coins without a device? Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how you do it, right? You have your recovery phrase, and then you can type your recovery phrase into any wallet, new Ledger device or any crypto wallet for that matter, and then you'll be able to restore your accounts. But keeping in mind that if you can do it, anyone can also do it. And that's the reason why you should never share your 24 with recovery phrase, because you're basically giving the keys to the kingdom to the scammer or whoever is getting a hold of the keys. So keep those secret. And that's why we keep repeating every single day that, guys, that you should never share your 24 recovery phrase. Ledger will never ask you for it.
All right. I think there's a couple more quick questions we probably can run through really quickly. Loki 808 just mentions if the Stax was MagSafe compatible, that would be sick. I don't think it will be, but that would be cool. I think I see Mr. Dino mentioned that they bought the Ledger Nano X, passes the genuine check, and I got my seed phrase, wrote it down, and someone had my seed phrase without me knowing. The only way you can have your seed phrase without you knowing, if accounting for if you did everything that we normally suggest, it's if someone was spying on you or something like that, which is really rare. So don't be paranoid, but it's just that kind of, it's about keeping it off digital devices, on paper, and only on the Ledger device, those two places, and that's it. There shouldn't be any other than extreme circumstances. So.
But I think you're right to be paranoid, Felix, because, for example, when I set up my Ledger device, I cover my webcams, for example. I never, I close the windows, and maybe that's a little tinfoily, but I just never, on the very off chance that might happen, that I don't want anyone to have even the slightest chance of getting a digital copy of my device, or maybe someone has access to my webcam, they might be able to see what's happening on my desk. So I think in crypto, you can never be paranoid enough, I think.
You can always do the Edward Snowden thing. He puts a blanket over him and he types his password like that. I think that's actually the coolest thing ever. If only my things were that, if I had such high stakes, then I would probably be that paranoid as well anyway.
Mm-hmm. So. Okay, maybe last question from KO13. Probably a stupid question, but there are no stupid questions, believe me. But if you manage 2 accounts with Ledger Live, what happens if I use the wrong ledger to sign a transaction? Ledger Live will just return an error message.
The specific ones is you have something went wrong. Please check your hardware wallet is set up with the recovery phrase that matches. So it's wrong private keys for the account in particular. Sorry, I just needed to jump in.
No, but that's perfect. I was going to say that. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because you're using the wrong private keys. That's what it is. That's why, if you use one computer with Ledger Live, but you have multiple Ledger devices, do label each account to reflect which device controls the private keys to which account, because it can really get messy very quickly. If you have multiple people using the same computer, or you're using multiple devices on the same instance of Ledger Live. So yeah. And William is asking, how do I not lose coins in transfer, Felix?
I would say that when you're transferring them, that if you're transferring them elsewhere, you are technically losing them, right? But I think it's a matter of when you're transferring the coins, it's always making sure you know which network you're transferring them on, and making sure that address corresponds to that network. I think that's the most important one there. So really quickly, it'll be like, okay, I sent my VET to my Ethereum address, and because the VeChain uses the 0x prefix, but it uses a different derivation path, it's not as easy to use the same keys to sign for specific derivation paths, because for security reasons, our apps lock the signing to specific derivation paths. So it's just a matter of knowing which networks you transfer them on.
Perfect. I think that one's going to be the last one for real. Musevi is asking, can you do a video how to recover your Ledger passphrase 25th word? As I can see, nobody did this type of video. Actually, there is a video, but it's an old one. If you, on this very YouTube channel, you just type recover passphrase into the search tool, you should find it. Maybe I can drop it in the comment for you, because it is for sure there. Although it's an old-ish video. Yep. Felix, do you have any closing thoughts while I'm looking for the video?
In terms of, I guess I would just quickly run through the last questions. Can you store SHIB on Ledger? Yes. Is there a way to convert SHIB to USDC?
Same.
Yes. Use a decentralized exchange if you want to. That should help. Don't give out your 24 words. Don't sign any transactions you don't trust. And I think I see a last one. Can you do a video on how to transfer XTC from Uphold to Ledger Nano? I think it would be good to get a hold of Uphold for that one, because not all of us would be using Uphold. But I think the main thing there to think about, because it came up recently, is about the tiers of assets. Oh, yeah, MG, I actually have been discussing with Dan, just today. I was testing it out all on my devices, so no worries about asking. We were working on it, so really sorry about the delay. So
awesome. Cool. I mean, that was a great session again. I love those live AMAs. I think it's so cool that you guys like asking so many questions. We do them almost daily now, Felix, right? 3 times a week. And if we're not on YouTube, we're going to be on Twitter. If we're not on Twitter, we're going to be on somewhere else. Like there is something happening. There is a show happening every single day, and we really appreciate you guys. So keep coming. By the way, if you want to know the schedule of all the different AMAs and live events that we do at support, go to support.ledger.com, that's the help center, and type AMA schedule into the search bar, and you'll find an article that has all the different time slots and everything. So yeah, that's always great to do those sessions. And Felix, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. Yep, and MG, we'll answer your question. No worries. Don't worry about it. But yeah, thanks, guys, for all the questions. We love you, and we'll see you guys next time.
Stay safe. Don't share your 24 word.